At the team lunch, my manager raised his glass and joked, "Let's hear it for the intern who can't even staple papers right." Everyone burst into laughter as he patted my head like a child and added, "Maybe if she smiles pretty enough, we'll keep her another month." I laughed along, pretended not to care, and that night, sent his private text messages about female employees directly to HR. By morning, he was locked out of his office. My name's Callie. I'm 23. I was interning at a marketing firm in Columbus, Ohio. Not some massive place, but big enough that they had floors divided by departments and coffee machines that always seemed broken. I'd graduated from Ohio State that spring, first one in my family to finish college. I was proud. Naive too. I thought internships were about learning, networking, getting a foot in the door. I wasn't expecting to be treated like furniture with a name tag. For the first few weeks, I stayed quiet. I got there early, stayed late, did everything anyone asked of me. Even the stuff that wasn't mine, like fixing expense reports, making decks for meetings I wasn't even invited to, and walking across the street for Brad's favorite coffee. Half oat, half regular, not too hot, or you're doing it wrong. His words, not mine. Brad was my manager. He was in charge of our team, which meant I reported directly to him. He had this cocky, smooth talker vibe. His voice always had a joke loaded. His face always had that smug smile that made you feel like you were missing something. People laughed when he spoke, even if the joke sucked. Because it was Brad. He was the kind of guy who called himself a mentor in meetings. I knew how he talked about women. I wasn't stupid. I saw it when he stared too long at women passing in the hallway. I saw it in how he'd joke with the girls on our team, then claim they were too sensitive if they didn't laugh. And I saw it in the texts he started sending me in the second week of my internship. It started small. "That account manager has some serious crazy X energy, LOL. I didn't reply. Then came another. "You ever notice Tanya's skirt keeps getting shorter each week? Coincidence?" I ignored it. Then he sent a pic from an office event. It was someone bending down to grab a bag. You could barely see anything, but his message said, "Zoom in on that." "You're welcome." I didn't respond. Again. Then came the one that broke me a little. "You're lucky, you know. Most interns are just annoying. You're cute and quiet. That's rare." I remember staring at my screen for a while, heart pounding. I typed, "Please don't send stuff like that," then deleted it. I didn't reply. I didn't want to be that intern. I was 3 weeks into the job. I needed this internship to finish my credits. I needed a reference. I needed them to like me. So I said nothing. I wish I could go back and tell myself to speak up then. But I didn't. I let it slide. Until the lunch. It was supposed to be a welcome lunch for a new project manager. I wasn't even invited at first. Only found out because someone copied me by mistake on the calendar invite. I asked Brad if I should come. He smirked and said, "I guess you can tag along. Free food, right?" We went to a steakhouse near the office. The kind with fake brick walls, overpriced burgers, and people who call everything artisanal. Everyone showed up in their Friday casuals, trying to look like they didn't hate each other 5 days a week. I sat at the end of the long table. They gave me the worst seat between the ice bucket and a server station. I didn't care. I was used to being invisible by then. Midway through the lunch, people had loosened up. Drinks were flowing. Brad ordered 2 rounds for the table. I just sipped on water. I wasn't 100% sure if interns were supposed to drink. Plus, I didn't feel like trying to fake laugh through wine buzz. Then Brad raised his glass. "All right, everyone, raise a glass for the intern." People looked around. Some lifted their drinks halfway. Then he said it. "For the intern who can't even staple papers right." And just like that, the table erupted. Laughter. Full-on laughter. Not the polite kind. My face froze. I tried to smile, but my lips were stiff. He wasn't done. He stood up, leaned over the table and patted my head like I was some toddler. "Maybe if she smiles pretty enough, we'll keep her another month." That one hit harder. That wasn't just embarrassing. That wasn't just awkward. That was demeaning. Humiliating. Mean. Everyone kept laughing. Some looked unsure, but none of them stopped him. Nobody said, "Hey man, chill out." They just watched. Watched me be turned into the joke. I laughed. Quietly. That tight kind of laugh you fake when you feel your face burning. I laughed because if I didn't I would cry. And crying would have made it worse. But inside, something snapped. I went home that night and just sat in the dark. I didn't even take off my shoes. I felt like a fool. I kept hearing the laughter over and over again. His words kept echoing. Smile pretty. I opened my phone and scrolled up to his texts. All of them were still there. I screenshot every one. Every comment. Every photo. Every joke. Some of them went back over a month. Then I sat down and wrote an email to HR. Just a few lines. Attached are messages I received from my direct supervisor over the past month. I feel uncomfortable and unsure how to proceed. I'm sharing these because I believe they reflect a deeper problem. No emotion. No drama. Just proof. I attached the screenshots. Hit send at 11:47 p.m. I didn't sleep that night. At 8:12 a.m. the next morning, I noticed something strange. Brad hadn't responded to our team chat, which he usually floods every morning. At 8:19, our team's director sent a message. Brad's out today. We'll be adjusting schedules accordingly. I knew that was a lie. At 8:22, I noticed Brad's office door was closed. A coworker walked past and said quietly, "His key card's not working." By noon, someone from HR came down to our floor. They weren't subtle. They asked to speak to a few women privately. By 4 p.m., Brad's nameplate was off his office door. By Monday morning, his LinkedIn said, "Open to work." They didn't tell us much. Just that he was no longer with the company. But I knew. And I think others did too. Tanya, the woman he used to comment on the most, stopped by my desk that afternoon. She didn't say a word. Just left a coffee on my desk. The kind I liked.
Oat milk, no sugar.
It was the quietest thank you I've ever received. Brad was gone and for a little while it felt like things might settle. HR didn't call me in for a follow-up. No one asked questions.
No warnings.
No, please don't discuss this emails. It was like the company wanted to pretend it never happened. But people talk. They always talk. At first it was subtle coworkers who used to smile at me stopped making eye contact. Some of the men on the floor kept their distance like I was contagious. One guy, Jeremy, who used to joke with me by the printer, flat out turned around and walked the other way when he saw me. 2 weeks later I overheard someone in the break room say, "It was probably a misunderstanding. Brad was a lot of things but he wasn't stupid." Right. Because sexual harassment only counts if it's done by someone dumb? I kept working. Kept my head down. Finished every assignment on time. Still brought the team coffee on Fridays. Still smiled through meetings like nothing had changed. Then, out of nowhere, I got called into the HR office. I thought maybe it was about finalizing the internship. Or maybe they wanted to check on how I was doing. No. They sat me down and asked if I had been speaking to other employees about the investigation. I was stunned. I told them the truth. I hadn't said a word. Not to anyone. I didn't even tell my roommate the full story. But the HR woman just looked at me and said, "We've received some concerns about gossip spreading. We're not accusing you of anything. Just reminding you of the importance of confidentiality." That's when it hit me. Someone was trying to flip the script. Make me the problem. Later that day, I checked Slack and saw I was no longer in the general team chat. I had been removed.
No explanation.
Just gone. I asked one of the other interns about it and she said, they made a new one. Just for the full-time employees. Which didn't make sense. I'd been in that chat since day one. And the other intern was still in it. It was just me they cut. That week, Tanya stopped by my desk again. She looked hesitant. "Hey," she said. "Just be careful." I looked up. "What do you mean?" She paused. "Some people think you sent that stuff to HR because you were trying to get Brad's job. Like you planned it." I couldn't even respond. My throat tightened. Planned it? I didn't even want to be in the same room as Brad. I'd been surviving that place 1 hour at a time. But that's how it works, right? When a man like Brad falls, people need someone to blame. And it's never him. A few days later, I came back from lunch and found my desk cleared. Not entirely, my computer was still there. But the sticky notes, the pens, the coffee mug I brought from home gone. Even the picture I had of my sister and me from graduation was missing. I stood there frozen. My chair had been pushed all the way under the desk, like no one was supposed to be sitting there anymore. I went to my supervisor, Amy, who had barely spoken to me since Brad left, and asked if someone had moved my things. She didn't even look up from her computer. I think the cleaning crew might have gotten confused. Right. Because cleaning crews throw away framed photos and mugs, apparently. I checked the trash bins. Empty. Everything was gone. That night I went home shaking. I called my mom and told her I was thinking of quitting. She told me something I won't forget. If you walk out now, you're letting them write the ending. Don't let them do that. She was right. I didn't report Brad to get ahead. I did it because it was the right thing to do. But if they wanted a problem, I was about to become one. The next morning I got in early. Earlier than anyone else. I sat at my desk, logged into my computer, and started documenting everything. Every weird incident. Every cold shoulder. Every suspicious change in access or communication. I created a folder. Password protected. Labeled it just in case. Because it was clear now I wasn't just being isolated. I was being pushed out. And I wasn't going to let them do it quietly. That week I noticed something strange. My access to client folders was getting denied. First it was 1, then 3, then my calendar permissions changed. I couldn't even see the team meetings anymore. I emailed Amy. Hey, I'm getting access errors on folders I use daily. Just flagging it so I can keep working. No response. 12 hours later, I got a reply from someone and Hi Callie, your permissions have been updated according to role changes requested by your supervisor. Please reach out to your manager for more info. That's when it became crystal clear. They weren't just icing me out. They were building a case to cut me. But they forgot one thing. Brad didn't just send me gross messages. He sent them about everyone, especially the people who were now trying to stay as far away from me as possible. Some of those messages, they mentioned things Brad and a few others did during company trips. Drunk hotel party stories. One where he joked about another supervisor hooking up with a junior employee from HR in Chicago. Back when I got the messages, I thought they were just gross. I didn't know they'd come in handy. But now I had leverage. I started building timelines, matching Brad's messages to known company travel dates, names, flights. I even used my saved emails to pull calendar invites that matched trips. When I finished, I had a file that could raise a lot of eyebrows, not just at HR but with the board. I sat on it. For now. Then things escalated. It was a Friday afternoon. I was 1 week from completing my internship. One of the HR managers, Rhonda, called me into her office. She had the kind of smile that looks glued on. Callie, I just wanted to touch base as you approach the end of your internship. We're seeing some performance concerns. A few people have mentioned that your attitude has changed since Brad left. There are also concerns you've been disruptive to the team. I didn't say a word. I just let her talk. Now, while this may not affect your credits or transcript, she continued, we may not be able to offer a formal recommendation. And unfortunately, there won't be a full-time position extended. She smiled again. These things just don't always work out. But thank you for your time here. I nodded, stood up and walked out. But I didn't go back to my desk. I went outside, sat in my car and emailed everything in my folder to someone higher. Not HR. I sent it to the company's internal compliance officer, the legal department. I used the company directory to find both. CC'd them. Included all the screenshots Brad had sent, plus the newer file, timelines, references, names, and connections. I included a summary at the top. After submitting inappropriate text from my manager, I was retaliated against, iced out of systems, and publicly humiliated by leadership. I now have evidence that the behavior I reported was not isolated, and may involve other members of management. I'm documenting this for legal and ethical reasons. I hit send. Then I forwarded the same email to myself, and another copy to a lawyer my cousin recommended a month ago. I didn't know what would happen, but I knew something would. The next Monday, something shifted. I got into the building, swiped my badge, and it didn't work. For one long second, I thought they'd locked me out. But then a security guard walked up. "Callie, you're cleared, just use the side entrance today. Compliance is using the main desk for interviews." My stomach dropped. Interviews? I went upstairs. Our office was buzzing. Tanya caught my eye and walked over fast. "Did you hear?" she whispered. "Legal's here. Like real legal." They called in Amy and Jeremy first. Everyone's freaking out. People were walking around stiff, eyes on their phones. Doors were shut that never stayed shut. HR was suddenly polite again. I sat down at my desk, and everything was back. My files. My calendar. My chat access. It was like someone had flipped a switch. I checked my inbox. One new message. Subject line: compliance interview request. Today at 3 p.m. I showed up at 2:58. And for the first time since I got there, they listened. Really listened. They asked questions. Serious ones. Took notes. I showed them everything. The timeline. The deleted calendar invites. Brad's texts. I told them how HR called me and how my desk was cleared, how my access was cut off. How they said I wouldn't get a reference. At the end, the compliance officer looked me dead in the eye and said, "You did the right thing coming to us." 2 weeks after that compliance interview, everything came crashing down, just not on me. It started with whispers. You could feel it in the air like a storm before it hits. Doors were being closed. HR walked around like they were being watched. People who used to act like I didn't exist suddenly smiled like we were best friends. Tanya said nothing out loud, but every time she passed me, she gave me a tiny nod, like we were both waiting for the same explosion. And it came. On a cold Tuesday morning, 2 men in suits came in through the front lobby. They weren't from our office. Legal, probably. They didn't stop to chat. They went straight into the executive wing. By noon, Amy, my direct supervisor, was escorted out of the building with her bag half-zipped and her face white as a sheet. Jeremy followed the next day. He didn't even get to pack his desk. Just walked past me, eyes forward like I wasn't even there. Then it went higher. The head of HR, Rhonda, was put on administrative leave pending internal review. Which was company speak for "we're about to king you, but the lawyers need a week." A memo went out to all employees that same afternoon. It was worded carefully, like a lawyer had combed over every line with tweezers. "We are committed to ensuring a safe, fair, and respectful workplace. Recent investigations have revealed serious lapses in conduct and oversight. Steps are being taken to correct this." People knew what it meant. By Friday, I was asked to come in for a meeting with the CEO. Not a Zoom. Not a phone call. An actual sit-down, just him and me, in a corner office with views of the city. I sat across from him. He thanked me for my honesty and integrity. Words that sounded like they were coated in sugar. Then he offered me a job. A full-time position. Better pay than most new grads. A chance to grow within the company. I didn't even hesitate. "No, thank you," I said. He looked surprised. "You don't want to stay?" I leaned forward. "I've seen what kind of people you let run this place, and how you treat the ones who speak up. I'm not staying. I just wanted to make sure people like Brad don't get to keep moving up, because the people under them are too scared to say anything." He tried to say something else, but I was already standing. "Also," I said as I reached the door, "I'm finishing my internship. You'll be signing my hours. And you will give me a letter of recommendation." He opened his mouth, then shut it. I walked out. That weekend, I posted my resume online. By Monday, I had 4 interviews lined up. Word had spread fast. Quietly, yes, but in the right circles. A compliance officer I'd met during the investigation even reached out personally and said, "If you're ever looking for work in policy or ethics, let me know." I never had to use the just-in-case folder again. But I kept it. Because a part of me knew what it meant to have power taken from you. And what it felt like to get it back inch by inch. As for Brad, I looked him up a month later. His LinkedIn was gone. A quick Google search showed a tiny line in a local business journal. Former manager at company. No longer employed after internal review. That was it. No big drama.
No headlines.
But the people in our industry knew. A friend in another office said he applied for a consulting gig, but got turned away last minute. HR flagged him, she said. Good. I graduated a month later. walked across the stage, shook the dean's hand, and smiled wide for the camera. No one patted my head. No one told me to smile pretty. And no one will ever do that to me again. Because now I know what people mean when they say, pick your battles. This wasn't a battle. It was a war. And I won.